Hello everyone. In this video we're going to discuss about a question which is finding the majority element in an array. This question is taken from the GeeksforGeeks website and it's also available on the leetcode website. The link of those question will be available in the description box below. So let's get started. Now first let's understand the problem statement. If we take an array, so here is an array. First thing we need to understand is, what do you mean by a majority element? What is the meaning of this? A majority element is such an element which should be greater than n by 2 times. Now here n refers to the size of the array. If you take this particular case, what is the size of the n? So the size of n over here is 8 and n by 2 would be 4. So there should be a particular element in this array which should be greater than 4, which should be present more than 4 times, If you look at the element 5 over here, 1 2 3 4 5, now this particular element 5 is present 5 times, so the output should be the number 5. When given an input of an array, the output of the number should be produced. In this case the output is 5. So we are going to be solving this question in two approaches. The first one is the brute force approach and the second one is the Moore's voting algorithm. There is also a third approach which is by using the hash maps, but in this video I'm not going to discuss about this approach because since I didn't make any video on this particular topic, so I don't want to discuss about this. Once I make video on this topic, then I will make a separate video about this question using this particular method. So first of all, let's talk about the brute force approach. Now we are on our IDE. So I just kept this function first itself here. I created a function over here named majority, and inside this function I've kept the parameters as array and the size of the array. So now inside this we will write the code. So the first thing we need to do is we need to initialize the for loop for int I equals 0 and I plus plus, and after this inside this we'll create a variable called as element and equate that to ARR of I. So whatever will be at the ith position will be stored. Starting the 0th element will be stored over here inside this element, and we will initialize a variable called as count and we'll equate that to 0. We'll initialize that to 0. The second thing which we have to do is for int j equals 0, j less than n, j plus plus, if ARR of j double equals element, then we increase the count by 1. Now after this what we are supposed to do is, if count is less than or equal to n divided by 2, then we print that element not found, else we print that particular element. Okay, I'll just make this int as void because we are not returning anything here. Okay, so this is perfect. Now here I've initialized the array and I've initialized the size of the array and I've also initialized the function. Now let's directly run this program and then I'll explain you. So you could see it is printed element not found. You might be wondering why it's printing these many times. It's just because of the for loop. Okay, so why it has said that element is not found? See, now here the size of the array is 8. So an element is called as a majority element if the size of the array, wait, I'll take the pen. Now an element is called as a majority element if the size is greater than n by 2. So here n by 2 is 4. If you could observe the number of 5s over here, these are 1, 2 and 3. there are only 3 5s, and there is no other number which is repeating more than 4 times. So it has printed that element is not found. But if I say than 4, if I remove this and if I put 5, now it should print 5. See, finally it has printed 5. This is happening because we have kept the particular thing inside the for loop. So whatever, all the iterations that are taking place are getting printed over here, and finally you could see the number 5 got printed. So this is the brute force approach. I'll explain this particular code now. So first we are using the for loop. Now here this is the array which is 1 and 5. Okay, so just consider this as the array. So the first for loop, what it is doing is it is iterating from here to here. It is iterating through the whole array, and then from that we are storing inside this variable called as element. We are storing the value of ARR of 0 in this case. See, ARR of I, initially i's value is 0, so we are storing this value 2 over here, and we have initialized the value of count as 0. So what we are doing is we created another for loop which also iterates the same way from first to last, and then what we said was if ARR of j, the value of j here is 0, if that is equal to the value of element, so the value of element here is 2, if these both get equated, then we increase the value of count by 1, so count will become 1. And in this way, finally, if the count value, if this particular count value will be greater than 4, then we print the, I shouldn't say it as greater than 4. Wait, if the count value is less than or equal to n by 2, then we print that the element is not found. If it is greater than n by 2, then we print that particular element which is ARR of I. So I hope you understood this approach. But there is one thing about this approach. This approach is like waste. We don't use this approach anywhere because its time complexity is big O of n square, which is like very high, and it takes a lot of time to compile. So we don't use this approach anywhere. That's why I just lightly explained you this program and I left it. I did not go deep into this. Now let's look at our second approach. Now we are going to discuss about the second approach, which is the Moore's voting algorithm. This is a very important approach, and please do listen to this very carefully. So firstly, what we are going to do is we're going to take an array. So here we have taken an array. So in this algorithm, you have 2 steps. The first step is we have to find that number which is majority. You know what majority is by now. And second step is we need to confirm, or you can say we need to check whether it's majority or not. So in the first step, you will find a particular number, and that particular number, it can be majority or not, but you will get a number. In the second step, you confirm by checking whether that particular number is majority or not. So firstly, we will do the coding part, and then while I write the first step's code, then I'll explain everything. So this is the first step of the code. So here this is the code snippet. Now I'll explain this particular code first, and after that I'm gonna type this code on our IDE. So first thing I'll do is I'll draw a table over here. Here it is I, and then it's the count, and here we have the result. Initially we have taken the value of count as 1 and the value of result as 0. So first I'll draw the array. So this is the array which we have taken now. I'll put the index value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fine. Now at I equals 0, we have taken the value of count as 1 and the result as 0. So what we are basically doing is initially we are declaring the 0th element as the majority element. So in our case, we are declaring 7 as our majority element. Now at I equals 1, what happens is we'll go inside this for loop. If ARR of 0, here result is 0 initially. So if ARR of 0 double equals ARR of I. So here ARR of 0 is 7. If 7 equals ARR of 1 is also 7. So 7 and 7 are equal. Now in this case, what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to go inside the loop. Here what is written? Count plus plus. So what happens? At I equals 1, the value of count becomes 2. And here the result will be still equal to 0. Now again, at I equals 2. Here at I equals 2, you can see that the number is 6. So ARR of result is not equal to ARR of I. So 7 is not equal to 6, right? Then in that case, what we are supposed to do, we are supposed to go to the else part, which is count minus minus. So here it will become count will become 1 and the result will be the same. And after that again I equals 3. At I equals 3, you have 6 over here. So 6 is not equal to the majority element. Then what we are supposed to do, we are supposed to reduce the count by 1. So 1 minus 1 becomes 0. When the count becomes 0, look at this if part. If count double equals 0, then you need to make the count as 1 and you need to make the result as I over here. It's not 1. So here you need to make the result as I. So what is the value of I over here? The value of I is 3. So here the result will become 3. So what is the majority element now? The element at 3 will become the majority element, which is 6. Now here 6 is the majority element. I hope it's clear till here. I just made a small mistake here. Result is not equal to 1. We need to make the result equal to I, and the value of I here is 3. So now the result will be 3. Now the I value gets incremented. Now at I equals 4, what is gonna happen? The majority element is 6 and the element at 4 is also 6. So you need to increase the count variable by 1. So this is gonna become 2 and the result is going to be same 3. And at I equals 5, at 5 the value is 4. So what is going to happen? 6 is not equal to 4. So count variable will be reduced by 1 and the result is going to be the same. And at I equals 6, the majority value is 6 and the element at I equal to 6 is also 6. So what is going to happen? The count will become 2 and the result variable is also going to be the same. So from this, after this whole loop ends, here we have the result as 3. So what did I say in the first step? We are gonna get a value of the majority element. In the second step, we have to check whether that value is correct or not. So here ARR of result, which is nothing but ARR of 3, the value is 6. Now here we got the value of 6 as majority element. Now in the second step, we are supposed to check whether this value 6 is the majority element or not. Now we are just in an assumption that okay, 6 is the value, but we don't know whether this is correct or not. Whether it's correct or not, we'll check in the next step. Now here in the previous step, we have got to know that at ARR of 3, we have the majority element, that is 6 is the majority element. This is what we got to know, but we confirmly don't know that whether this is the majority element or not. So that thing we are going to check in this particular step. Here we have initialized the value of count as 0 initially, and after that we are traversing through the whole loop from starting from 0 to n. And after that what we are doing is, if ARR of result, that is equal to 3, double equals ARR of I. Here initially ARR of I is going to be 0. So if that is going to happen, then we are going to increase the value of count by 1. So what is going to happen here is, see, at starting it is going to check with 0, then the count value won't get increased. When it comes to this value, when it comes to 2, 3, 4 and 6, then what is going to happen? The count value is going to get increased by 1 time. So here you have 4, see here you have 6, the element 6 at 4 places, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the value of count is going to become 4. Now here, if you look at this particular piece of code, if count is less than or equal to n by 2, that means we have checked, the first condition, the first and the foremost condition is what? It's called a majority element only and only if it is greater than n by 2 times. So what we are telling here is, if it is less than n by 2 times, we are going to return -1, and if it is greater than n by 2 times, then we are going to return that particular number, ARR of result. So now in our case, what is going to get returned? The number 6 will be returned in our case. So I hope the concept of this particular code is clear. Now we will code this on the GeeksforGeeks website. So here we are on our GeeksforGeeks IDE right now. So the first step, which we're gonna do is, we're gonna take the value of count as 1 and comma the value of result as 0, and we're gonna run a for loop for int I equals 1, I less than n, I plus plus, and inside this for loop we're gonna put an if statement. If ARR of result double equals ARR of I, then we increase the value of count by 1, else we're gonna decrement the value of count by 1. After this, if the value of count equals 0, then we need to make the value of count as 1 and the value of result as I. This is the first step. And now the second step. The second step, what we are supposed to do is, we are supposed to initialize the value of count as 0, and for int I equals 0, I less than n, I plus plus, if ARR of result ARR of I, then increase the value of count by 1. If count is less than or equal to n by 2, then we return -1, else return ARR of result. So this is the full code here. Now let's run this particular code. See, here we got the output. So for the input given, we got the output as 3. So let's submit this code. Here it is showing the code is solved successfully. I solved this code, I solved this question before itself, so it is showing the number of attempts as 2. But yeah,
I hope you understood these approaches very clearly. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please do like, share and subscribe to my channel. We'll meet in the next one.